Oh, good episode.
That was a great episode.
They moved everything extremely quickly.
Yep. They didn't have any like padding time. They explained the abilities, but they explained them quickly.
Right.
And then had the comeuppance on them.
Yep.
They reused the opponents so that way you didn't have to like re-explain things.
Well, they had also scheduled their fights, and we kind of missed this in the early point discussion of how they had basically leveraged
Zushi's
kidnapping to try to set up the scheduling the times, and that's when Killua came in the previous episode,
right,
and threatened them to not even show up, at least for the first one,
right,
and then the others he basically said, all right, just give us a fair fight, no cheating, no messing with Zushi or anything like that, but of course they came in with that added bit of resolve because you had messed with our friend, specifically Gon, and he ruined Guido's day.
Oh, he did. And for a second, I thought he was going to use the electrocuting snakes on their maximum setting. Like
that was real felt though. I'm talking about the guy where he broke his prosthetic leg.
Yep.
Like when you saw the punch going, you think, is this guy gonna like punch a hole in his chest or something like that?
But then
he punched the prosthetic leg, and I'm like,
that's
wait a minute.
worse.
That's why that's bad is because like when you have a prosthetic as such, you grow accustomed to it just as you would a regular arm. How long you've had it over time. So he can't just get a new one and repair it. That takes time, surgery, and all this other stuff, and then getting accustomed to it. So he probably can't fight again. Not only
for a while,
not only in Heaven's Arena, but just for a while in general. So his career is basically over.
Well, and the cool thing about that is that Gon probably knew that by doing that, he would make it so that Killua wouldn't have to bother fighting him as well.
Right.
So
yes,
and it's like because in anime a lot of the times there will be the thing of like no you're not worth fighting.
Right. Absolutely.
So it was adding insult to injury.
Absolutely.
And
great. Also, if I'm correct, Guido couldn't afford to lose those two matches. I'm pretty sure that booted him out of the Heaven's Arena. Every one of them, I think, had at least 2 losses already.
Right.
So,
something like that.
Because they had a lot of wins already, because they had been the newbie stompers, basically. Right. But by having them deal with all these little dumb bully rivals in one episode, it gives a lot of respect, I think, to us as the audience, is saying like, hey guys, we
know that these people don't really matter.
They don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Mm-hmm. If anything, we need to use them as stepping stones for Gon and Killua to show how much they've grown.
Right.
And then give you a nice, satisfying just beat down on them.
And I love
their characters mean almost nothing in the grand plot.
Right. And I love how they showed their difference in like tactics and like just personal taste for how to fight.
Absolutely.
Even though when it came down to it, a lot of the times they did just decide, I'm just going to overpower the person.
Right.
But like Gon just deciding, I'm going to pick up the tile that he's under. It's like, that's great. Flip it over. Awesome. And then again, he's like, you know what? That worked before, so I'll just do it again.
Well, I think also the cool thing is that Gon had at least a 2-step program to every one of his fights.
Right.
Dislodging them from their current state of defense with some kind of Nen-based enhancement attack. Like, he enhanced his rod with the strength in order to not break when he lifted the tile.
Yeah.
He enhanced his own physical strength to lift up the tile itself. And then that dislodged their defense, and then he closed in.
Right. And it really... It was methodical and like to the point. It's just a quick like, okay, disorient them, unbalance them, and then get right next to them.
Strike and it's over.
Yep.
And I think that's how I would like to see fights like this go, with maybe a give and take sequence of that. So here's how you could have it be
when they're more balanced.
Well, there's also more skilled opponents. Basically, just disorienting them once might not necessarily unbalance them enough to where they can land a strike that would actually mean something.
Right. It might give you tempo.
It might give you tempo in the fight and give you and put them on the defense, but it won't actually end the fight.
Right.
I could see, a true master, someone like Wing's kind of more or less a master in some respects, but like like Netero, I've always wanted to see him fight in particular. I'll bet you he's a true master. So if you unbalanced him a little bit, he could make you think he's unbalanced him or something to where you overexpose yourself and then he counterattacks or something. And I think if this is the mechanics of the fights that they use in general, where it's not just the way Hisoka did it, where it's some impossible to predict scheme,
but it could be
that looks cool, but it still is something that makes sense from like a regular fight without these superpowers.
Which is great, because that also gives sort of like reverse development onto how Hisoka fought, because it shows how much of a ham he wants to be, and just the idea of doing things not the easiest way, but doing it in a spectacular way, just
convoluted,
because he can.
Because not only because he can, but I think his powers lend towards a more convoluted trickster method. In fact, I think that's what they called him at some points, like Hisoka the Trickster or something like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's a Joker basically, so that there's also the humor aspect as well. He's trying to toy with them. Yeah. But it's a question of maybe finesse in that regard, because Gon and Killa both did rely on their strength being just greater than their opponent at specific points. So what do they do, like in Gon's case, when Hisoka is probably still stronger? How will the creativity come into play? And will he be able to outmaneuver Hisoka in that regard? That, I think, is where it's going to make the fights go from being just good shonen fights to being great, like amazing, unforgettable shonen fights.
There's a part of me that wonders whether Hisoka's challenge to Gon is a test in and of itself, to basically say, like, you can challenge me right now if you want, but if you're being smart, you'll actually take a little bit more time to get better, study the way I fight a bit more. That way, you know, like, you'll because it's like you're at that, if this was a D&D campaign, you're at that level where it's like, you can try that dungeon or try to fight that boss, but you're not at that prime level yet.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy. In fact, it's going to be really hard. But if you make it like an average, DC roll, then like it's not going to be as difficult.
Exactly.
I think that Gon cannot resist the opportunity, though, and I think also the time limit aspect of them having to schedule a fight within a certain allotment of time for Heaven's Arena means that
because Hisoka's next fight will take him out of this level whether he wins or loses.
So I don't think it's necessarily a thing where he's going to give him the opportunity to wait a year.
Sure. And but Gon does not necessarily have to fight Hisoka in Heaven's Arena.
Yes, but we all know he's going to. Like, come on.
They showed it in the opening. Like,
not only that, but if we predict the way Gon behaves, Gon's like, I can't wait to fight,
Well, except he wasn't like that with this. He was taking it very seriously.
Well, he was taking it seriously in the moment of the challenge, but I think when he goes back to his hotel room, he's just going to be like, If anything, he might be a little bit nervous because of how strong he knows Hisoka to be. But I think the idea that this is going to be a, like, not do or die, but like, very terrifying fight, I think it's going to add fuel to his passion towards the actual fight itself.
That is a great point, because he does like those moments of adrenaline pumping fear.
Yeah, he's a thrills junkie.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that they could reemphasize a little bit. But I would also like to have them reemphasize a little bit that Gon isn't some dumb kid. Like, there's moments where he acts a little bit goofy, like he did with Rieltvelt's
that sort of smile, starfish, like, here I am.
Hey, I'm here.
Yeah.
Peekaboo. That kind of stuff is not contradictory to his intelligence. He is still an intelligent fighter. Yes,
absolutely.
It's just the question of, will his intelligence and creativity be enough for Hisoka?
I don't think it will. Right now, I don't think he's at the point where he can defeat Hisoka.
So you think he's going to lose?
I think he's going to lose.
I think he's going to lose too.
And that's
too bad. We can't do a bet on it then, because we both think Gon's going to lose.
Yeah. No, that's not. But that's not to say that he won't put up a fight. I think it's going to be one of those things where he'll lose, but it'll be this awesome moment. Like he might be taking it a little bit hard. Like, dang it, I really wanted to beat him. But at the same time, it'll be like, wow, I've really come a long ways. Like,
yeah, and here's the other bit. One of the things, and I don't want to keep referencing like common things in shonen, but I think they could use it here in a creative way that's not so stereotypical, is the bad guy being used to awaken more power from the protagonist, is the idea that Hisoka being this wall that's in front of his progression could potentially be used to see if he breaks through the initial wall of Hisoka's skills, that Hisoka has to, utilize more of his strength than he's used to, which basically brings Gon up to that challenge.
Sure, yeah.
So Gon progresses in strength a lot from this fight because he learns to utilize certain techniques that he wouldn't have.
Yeah, and
because he's watching and fighting Hisoka.
And they don't have to have it be something that happens in the middle of the fight. A lot of times the progression and the growth can come after the fact, where it's like, okay, I got Hisoka to actually really push himself and take the fight seriously. Right. Now I see where he's really at, and now it's like, oh, okay, I know where I need to go. I know what I need to beat.
And not only that, he might specifically, even though we know that someone, I think it was Wing in particular, noted that you don't necessarily just take everyone's techniques because some people use things that are way easier for them to use than other people.
Right.
Gon could still learn specific things from Hisoka because of Gon's insane perceptiveness. Sure. Then we could maybe see how Gon's specialized in particular.
We could. That would be fantastic. We could also, because Hisoka's very clever, right? Whereas the bullies that they fought, not as much.
Yeah, so they were one-dimensional.
They were able to use a lot simpler tactics to defeat them because, one, they were stronger, and two, they just weren't super clever. Their techniques were beaten, and they just didn't know what to do. Yeah. And with Gon's fight with Hisoka, I feel like it could be something where basically, by fighting Hisoka, since Hisoka's so quick thinking, Hisoka will poke holes in a lot of the weaknesses in the way Gon fights.
Right.
And that'll be like, oh, I've been thinking about this differently. It's not just that I need to get stronger and develop new techniques, but the way I use them in an actual fight needs to be different.
Right.
And that'd be really cool to see how they actually show Gon going through those thought processes, maybe asking Wing questions and doing all that.
Yeah, and another thing that they bring up a point in this episode is that these fights have no time limit.
That's
true. Here's one of the things that's very common in a shonen is you have the main character fight a rival of some sort that's like someone personal fight, and they'll have it stretch on for a really long time.
Right, they keep getting beaten down, but they just won't give up.
Yeah. But in Gon's case, we know kind of why he has that thing going on is because we've seen the fight with Hanzo.
Right.
He has this insane level of endurance and specifically drive to where he overcomes his own physical limitations by just sheer willpower, which is kind of a resolve determinator.
But they do it in a really good way, so it's fine.
Right. So what we could see is just spitballing here. The idea that this is a point-based KO system, right?
Oh.
The idea that Gon could be thinking about this in an attrition level of points.
So
he won't get knocked out.
Right.
But he will only let Hisoka get, cheap, types of points.
Sure.
And then every once in a while, he'll start creeping up in the points as well.
Right. Yeah, if he basically did something where it's like, okay, I know I can't beat Hisoka power for power.
Right.
But I can beat him at the game.
Right.
Since this is not a game to the death battle or whatever.
Right.
It's a can you get to the 10 points?
Well, there is also the aspect of are you able to keep fighting?
Right. Yes.
And I think we can say safely that if Hisoka gets scared enough to where he might lose because Gon is playing the game, basically in that regard, he could just go, okay, I'm gonna take you out of the fight, and maybe that's where he slips up. And Gon gets a clean hit in on him. Yeah. And Hisoka, almost gets knocked out. And then he gets up and he's like, oh, okay, we're taking this seriously. And then it's just, fight's over, Gon loses. But it's oh, man, maybe he almost got him.
Right.
Because I feel like that's going to be the thing, is that Hisoka's going to just toy with him for a little bit. And then he's going to start taking it more and more seriously.
Right. One of the things that I want to see them do, maybe with the fight with Hisoka, he's kind of like what they did in Gon's little game with Netero and Killua.
Sure.
Because he wasn't able to beat Netero. He wasn't. Right. And nowhere close. But he didn't say that he wanted to beat him. He said he wanted to, bring him to a knee. Or make him use his other hand, right?
Yeah.
So So that's what he did, and by doing that, he was able to win in his mind.
Right. Well, that was a success, and he could tell that Netero was, impossible to beat in a real fight.
Right. So what if we got something like that with Hisoka, where basically Gon figures out, because Gon's smart. He's like, okay, I can't quite I'm not quite where I can beat him yet,
right?
But I can I can basically set something like I'm going to get to at least 8 points or something like that.
Or not only that, he could bring in his fishing pole, and he'd be like, "Hey, Hisoka, remember this?" And he's like, the one thing that got a hit on me.
Yeah.
And Gon plays a hit and run tactic and just constantly tries to hit him.
Sure.
Without actually.
Of course, Hisoka also has the cards.
He does. He
so
does. That's a good point.
That's
a good point, actually. In a ranged fight, Hisoka destroys Gon.
Uh-huh.
Because he has multiple cards.
He can just be like 52 pickup.
Yeah, and we can tell that the cards aren't necessarily like there might not necessarily even be a limit to the cards.
Sure.
We don't know exactly how those cards. Is he keeping them in a pocket, like a literal deck of cards?
But if he did that, then he'd probably have 10 decks of cards just to make sure he doesn't run out of ammo.
But that could look a little bit silly if he gets punched.
And
he falls, and then suddenly the cards fly out everywhere.
Hisoka shows up with this backpack full of cards.
He sets it down like
it has a chain fed thing where it just
That would be really dumb, but...
that would be dumb, but actually, that's a good point. If people can use Nen to do, crazy things like that, why wouldn't someone just make, a machine gun with, whatever their Nen-infused objects
I'm sure,
are?
Jacob, by how long this show is, someone has already done something like that, and we just haven't seen it yet.
Because especially with something like playing cards, that absolutely lends itself, with how thin they are, that totally lends itself to some kind of, just launcher that we're just...
I think also there has to be some
physical contact?
Not necessarily physical contact, because we know that you don't need to have physical contact to infuse Nen into something. But the idea that Nen being infused into multiple things takes a little bit more strain than just infusing into one
that's
thing.
A good point. Yeah.
So you wouldn't necessarily have as strong of a connection with Nen.
Right. So that's probably why people use fewer things, because if Hisoka infused 1,000 cards, and it's 100th maybe of the strength it would be if he just did 10.
I mean, that's a little bit of speculation, but it makes sense from the standpoint as to why Guido, for instance, didn't use 1,000 tops.
Right.
He only used 8 or so.
Yeah, and maybe that's like a way that people can measure how good someone is with their Nen and stuff. Is okay, how many things can you have infused with your Nen and still be effective?
I think maybe also the size of the object comes into play. So say someone had a needle technique. That would be crazy. When we saw Illumi / Gitaraker pulling out the needles from... Imagine if all of those could be infused and manipulated with Nen.
That's a good point.
And it was the idea that you basically harass them with this cloud of needles.
So, Byakuya.
Yeah, like Byakuya, basically. Yeah, exactly.
And that kind of does make sense, because the question is, are you infusing it with an energy that cancels out their own energy projection field or whatever, or are you doing something that basically reinforces the item itself, and that's all?
Yeah, see, that's the thing. We haven't gotten into Hatsu yet, really, so we don't know what those types of techniques could be with regards to that.
But Wing, he used a piece of paper or something, and then sliced a can of soda or whatever. So that seemed to be some kind of reinforcing the actual object.
Yeah, I think that is Ten or Ren.
Right.
It's not Zetsu. That's
right.
For sure.
It's
I think it's 10.
I think it's Ren because 10 is the force field that protects yourself.
Yeah, but you could extend that probably to other things.
Sure. Good point.
Maybe it is Ren.
I don't know.
We might have forgotten, but who cares? It's cool. All right, let's call it here. I think this was a good bit for discussion.
Yeah.
All right, guys, if you want to watch the next 2 episodes of Hunter x Hunter's reactions, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon's early access. You can get on that and check out our Discord as well. Chat with us about stories or what have you. And yeah, we'll see you all there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.